Greetings, this is Jazz for Jazz Reviews with my fully fledged review for Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. As a highly refined portion of Assassin's Creed and the Batman games, Shadow of Mordor should feel familiar for either fan, but it's a different experience entirely. It's defined by an ambitious nemesis system that infests just about every aspect of the game, and all for good reason. The hierarchy of angry orcs can be crippled by butchering the captains and ultimately the war chiefs. In the second half of the game, their puny brains can even be taken over for purposes of backstabbing their superiors as converted sleeper agents that will also fight alongside you on the battlefield. Thanks to the Nemesis system, power struggles, executions, and riots are side missions that you can create and influence as the player. You'll want to gain intel from mind-reading orcs or rescuing slaves to discover the captain's unique strengths and weaknesses. So things like ranged or stealth invulnerability can be all the difference in how you approach a captain. It all becomes very addicting as it's hugely personal. In competing power blocks, even the smallest runt of the litter can benefit from dealing the final blow and become a captain himself. The more victories you give them, the more formidable they become, rising through the orcish ranks. But they can do this without your help, and will challenge captains regardless on a completely automatic basis. The system was designed to create personal revenge feuds between the player and enemy Uruk, with a flair for cinematic drama.
Is this some kind of joke? I killed you already!
Say for instance you should burn a captain in one conflict. Given that they escaped the ordeal, past discretions will be mentioned in the next confrontation with the scars to prove that all of this has an awesomely cool meaning. And the orc may utilize different battle tactics with immunities or tricks up their sleeves to match what you tried against them last time. Death is far more rewarding for these reasons and positively punishing if the captains manage to slay you. But as ambitious as the Nemesis system would seem, it does really end there. This is the very core to the game, and as satisfying and addicting as it surely is, I personally felt it was still a touch superficial. No matter how many captains you kill, there will always be another to take his place. Through the motions you will level up your character and beat the main story, but it left me wondering what I was really doing in the full scope of Mordor. Talion is a ranger captain of the Gondor garrison stationed at the Black Gate. His orders are to watch over the barren lands of Mordor. The storyline is one of basic revenge that ties in with the unholy union of the main character Talion, and at what you may at first think is his imaginary friend.
You feel he has answers? For both of us.
But Talion and the Wraith, Celebrimbor, are stuck with each other from the get-go, seeking vengeance and answers as to why neither of them can actually die. The narrative doesn't particularly hold any character that you would find all that interesting, but you may take a shine to the eccentric ratbag.
Twins? What are the odds of...
Just make sure you show up to take the place of the dead war chief.
But the war chief's not dead.
I'm going to go kill him!
Oh, good plan! I'll be right behind you.
Or you may simply take him as the unpopular Jar Jar Binks character of orcish kind. But the villains are never given proper introduction to build suspense when you meet them and subsequently kill them. Dialogue between Talion and the Wraith did well though in pushing the narrative along in an interesting way. There's even brief side mission encounters with Gollum, but anyone can get involved in this Middle-earth game. Shadow of Mordor is set between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy, and despite its light dosage of simple storytelling, you can expect top-notch voice acting performances, right down to the smallest of orcs, scattered across the open world of 2 maps. It's a bleak, washed-out, rather grey setting, but for the source material, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a shame though that the game didn't give insight into how the orcs truly lived. The lore wasn't fully explored outside of brain-dead, purely dumb violence, as if staged for gameplay purposes and not much else. The impression you would get from playing Shadow of Mordor would be that the entire orcish race needs to be ethnically cleansed. Inspired by Batman's free-flowing combat, you will find a responsive counter system with very finely tuned animations. It's just so damn cool. There is a decent mix of combat styles that will test your abilities, with archers and berserker-type enemies that can only be harmed after a stun attack. In overwhelming numbers of orcs and leading captains, the game at times can actually get pretty hard. This system is infinitely superior to Assassin's Creed by terms of strength in numbers. Enemies do not wait their turn to attack quite as much, these are honorless orcs we're talking about. I expected the game to feel like one giant quicktime event, but the speed and complexities of enemy types have me slipping up all the time, so the game plays almost as cool as it looks. But it must be noted that Shadow of Mordor is an easy game for the bulk of its gameplay. I did come across a very difficult scenario with a war chief and his captains that I retried like 9 times. But in all honesty, I do believe it was the luck of the Nemesis draw. It seemed to pit me out against a mix between tank-like shields and crossbow-wielding captains with numerous strengths that seemed to work well against me as a player. In this instance, it would have been easier if I had gone after the captains one by one before confronting the war chief with all of his bodyguard present. But for the rest of the game, I saw no reason to even acknowledge the other captains in the system and slayed the war chiefs just as easily as the captains. You can gain currency by completing storyline or side missions, which you would then spend on numerous upgrades such as a boost in health, or the capability to mount enemy Karagor and Graug monsters of the game and ride them as your own personal beasts, devastating the enemy horde. In addition to the Karagors, some captains may bear a gut-wrenching fear to the Morgai flies, which can strategically be shot down through use of your elf bow. The bow itself is implemented into a number of abilities, but its use is limited to how much focus you've drained from enemy orcs. By killing captains, you can boost your weapons with collectible runes which, in majority, are simple stat modifiers, dishing out more damage or increasing the chance to regain health or focus with enemy kills. Epic runes are mostly dropped by the war chiefs and will do a lot more for your weaponry. But once the novelty has worn off, the vast majority of runes are just boring as a part of its reward system for killing captains. The game allows complete freedom to tackle scenarios however you would like. Stealth is very much one of the strongest approaches, although I can't help but feel this is a result of very poorly programmed AI in this regard. They can be absolutely oblivious to orcs being brutally murdered directly behind them. The stealth is almost as inherently awful and unrealistic as Assassin's Creed. It's a very easy game if played in this way, as the Shadows of Mordor are massively forgiving on Talion and his Wraith. Platforming is great. It's not quite as robust as Assassin's Creed, but for all purposes, it's a very smooth set of mechanics indeed. Graphically speaking, character models are superb, with each enemy just as believable as the last. Lighting, shadows, and all of the environmental effects are represented quite well in a world that transitions from day to night. From the blinding sun to the intricate splashes of rain, you will hear the Uruk grunts of doom and atmospheric gloom and discover that Mordor really is a depressing place. In some ways, however, Mordor is a very bland and predictable landscape that to me felt a little small in its efforts. The 2 maps are big enough for what it is to the gameplay, but I can't help but feel Mordor would have had a little more going on in forms of industry or mass production as opposed to just the relatively small outpost ruins and makeshift shacks that the game describes as fortresses. This is allegedly the twisted heart of Mordor. Of course, Sauron does not yet have the army to invade Middle-earth, but I still expected a bigger sense of scale for these lands of such evil portrayed by the movies and books. But thankfully, the game features a decent appendices section to explain everything from characters, lore, and the side mission collectibles such as the Ithilden images, survival herbs, artifacts, and the hunting creatures to kill across Mordor. So there is a fair amount of completionist gameplay time outside of the main storyline. The game runs at only 30 frames on both PS4 and the Xbox One, the former with 1080p resolution, the Xbox One at 900p. I couldn't say I ever saw a bad texture, but if you pay attention, there is a small amount of consistent graphical pop-in with the consoles. PC users should bear in mind that there is an Ultra Texture Pack download for those with graphical cards wielding 6 GB of video RAM, which is ridiculous and only achievable with cards like Nvidia's Titans. Sadly, I couldn't review the Trial of War side mode for you as it's only unlockable to those who pre-ordered the game, unless of course you want to pay for it under the guise of DLC. But in conclusion, Shadow of Mordor is a largely well-crafted game that should appeal to the majority of gamers. This is certainly the best game I've played all year so far, but I don't believe it's worthy of the review scores in the realms of 9s or 9.5s as some publications have given it. The Nemesis system is refreshing in what it hoped to accomplish, and it definitely succeeded in providing for some very fun, personal gameplay. But upon closer inspection, you would hope for much more depth. If you were to objectively throw away the Nemesis system, we wouldn't have a game that could even dream of the stellar review scores it's received. I issue Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor an 8 out of 10. This has been Jazz for Jazz Reviews, and this has been my review for Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Please do let me know exactly what you think of the game, and whether you actually agree with what I have to say here. I played through this title on the PlayStation 4, completing the game with a healthy amount of side missions and content that was fully explored. It gave me around 15 hours or so gameplay time, all content considered. But for now, I'm playing through Alien Isolation. Look for a fully fledged video review in your subscription boxes very soon. But until then, follow me all you want on Twitter, which can be found in the description below. I let you know exactly when you can expect this Alien review. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments.